I'm Father Ed Nadolny from the Father Nadolny Good News Fund, and I'm out here tonight asking you to become part of the show. I'd like to have you as my special guest. So you can call me at 860-321-7405. I'd like to have you call. You could ask me a question. I've got an answer for everything. Or I could ask you a question, where you're from, etc. So if you just tuned in, it's 860-321-7405. And I've been talking about, you've probably seen my billboards all over the state, and I'll just show you a few of them, and we'd like to talk about them. And here's one that says, Jesus, I adore you, and then Jesus, forgive me, and Merry Christmas. We have Merry Christmas. So these are some of the billboards I have around the state. And there are about 2 million cars that go by these billboards. Not 2 million different cars, but 2 million cars over a monthly period. I just had 6 months with one that was Jesus, forgive me. And there were average 55,000 cars a week. Multiply that 6 months, and that's 1,320,000 cars. So even if just 10% saw them, that'd be 130,000 cars. But it's a lot more, because each one of them is a prayer. Whether it's, I love you, Jesus, Jesus, forgive me, Jesus, have mercy on me, Jesus, I trust in you, I love you, Mary, like the one I have on Route 9, I love you, Mary. And another smaller one I have, Jesus, have mercy on me. Then going down 91 south of Hartford is Jesus, forgive me. Going down 84, before you go in the underpass, there's one that says, Jesus, I adore you. So and I have many more in other places, because I get calls from all over the state. And like just today, I got a call from West Haven, and I have a billboard there that says, Jesus, I adore you. And the fellow says, what's this all about? And I said, what does it say? It says, Jesus, I adore you. And I said, well, the purpose is to get you to pray. So each one of these billboards all over the state, the purpose is to get people praying. And there are at least 2 million cars that go by these billboards. I have about 15 of them. And what happens is that they become times of prayer. And we have more people praying on the highways than we have going to church on a Sunday or during the day. So the purpose is to get people to pray. But that's not the only thing that is. It gives people an opportunity to call me. And let me give you some examples. Just today, a fellow called me, and he saw my name. I have my name and my telephone number, my cell phone number there. And he called me. He says, I need some help. I said, what's the problem? He says, I'm on cocaine. I said, that's a good way to die early. Because if you notice, last year, over 1,000 people died from an overdose of drugs. I'm not talking about all those who overdosed and were able to live. Over 1,000 families now do not have someone in their family, a male or female. And so he said, I said, what do you want? He says, I'm on crack. And he was going down 91. And he said, I don't know what to do. I said, I'm calling for help. I said, you live in Meriden? Yes. I said, why don't you go to Midstate, go to the emergency ward, and tell them that you got a crack problem. And the guy was 56 years old. I said, you're still alive after so many years? I said, when's the last time you had crack? We had a nice conversation. And you could tell the fellow was hurting. So he says, last time I had it was yesterday. I said, what are you going to do today? I said, you're probably divorced. He says, how'd you know? If you're on crack, your wife isn't taking your nonsense, so she left you, right? And what are you going to do now? You're on the highway. It's about 4 o'clock. He says, I'll go home, and I'll go to sleep. Yep. I said, instead of going to sleep, why don't you turn around and go to Midstate. So if you have a question, I'm just telling you one story. If you have a question, call me at 860-321-7405. 860-321-7405. That's just one example of a call. On my way here tonight to Farmington at Nutmeg, I got another call. And this person was from New Haven. I have some billboards around New Haven. And he says, what's that all about? And I said, well, what does it say? He said, Jesus, I adore you. I said, well, I just got you to pray. So the purpose is to help people, first to pray, because so many people don't go to church. They stay home and watch television, watch football, or watch the UConn women, or watch the UConn men lose and women win. That's all their whole life. Now that baseball is coming, everybody's watching the spring training, whether you're a Yankee fan, Red Sox fan, or Met fan, or no fan. But you see that people now, sports is their new religion. We used to go to church on Sunday. Now we go play soccer on Sunday. And they tell me they're busy. Again, if you're listening, 860-321-7405. 860-321-7405. Give me a call if you have a question, or let me ask you a question. Yeah. So when you look at Sundays now, it's Sports Sunday now. It's not Religious Sunday. And that's one of the reasons why we have so many problems. Okay, let's see, which is it on one?
Yes.
Okay. You're on the air with Father Ed.
Yes. Hi, Father.
Hello there. Let's see if how I could push up, get more sound to it. Is that better? Go ahead.
That's good.
I could hear you better. Okay. What's on your mind?
Okay. I just received a mailing from your Good News Fund for the Easter.
Oh, okay.
And, right. And you've got some important occasions this year in your life to celebrate.
Oh, well, don't tell him. It's got to be between you and me, but I'll let you tell me. What's that celebration?
Oh, you want me? All right. I read the newsletter that was in the mailing. It's from part of your Easter card to the people who work with you and support you and volunteer. Can I read it?
I'm just telling the audience what she's just calling about is what I'm showing right now, the resurrected Christ, and then on the back of it, the different shows. Yeah, you could read. What does it say?
Okay. This is an open letter to you because you wouldn't let us announce it, so I figured that this way we would. It was written on February 18th. Today, your 86th birthday, we, the members of the Father Nadolny Good News Fund, would like to wish you a very happy birthday and blessings for years to come. In addition, it gives us great pleasure to offer congratulations and a round of applause for your upcoming 60th anniversary to the priesthood. That's in May. Thank you for accepting God's gift to serve and minister as a priest. We have been blessed, enriched, and challenged by sharing your life of faith, hope, and love with us. May God continue to bless you abundantly with good health, energy, and love. We all appreciate who you are and will become. You will be forever in our prayers as together we live and proclaim God's good news, especially through the Father Nadolny Good News Fund, Inc., founded in May of 1983. Gratefully, members of the Father Nadolny Good News Fund.
Oh, good. I should read that letter.
And you didn't even write it either.
No, thank you so much. For those who've never heard much about the Good News Fund, which you're the really the associate secretary, businesswoman, you're God's gift to the world. But what do you like most of all about the work of the Good News Fund?
Well, I think, we've heard you on radio. We've been around to know that when you put out pleas for help and needs are wanted, you give calls out, and we have volunteered. And so it's just all the people who have helped in any way together have almost formed like a family. And so it's, the people who donate the money, donate their time, donate their energy, and who, you maybe never hear from. But what we do, because we pick up the phones or we're mailing or changing addresses and things like that. And just, it helps us to do our job as ministers, following God's
what part of your job do you like best of all? What part of the Good News Fund work that you think is very important? Besides the billboards that bring in so much work.
Well, I think the availability. I think just being available, whether it's somebody who picks up the phone, somebody who answers, or who is in the restaurant who said, you listen. You take time to listen and invite. Yeah. Because we get involved in so many other programs. I think just availability and not having all the answers, but just listening and, reaching out and being aware of the needs.
Good. Yeah, the most favorite part of mine. I mean, we go to Africa and we go to India with orphans and schools in Africa. But the ones that I enjoy most of all is the ones I start talking about at the beginning of the show. All the people who call in, not only to thank us for the billboards, but also those who call in with problems. Well, thank you very much for calling, and I hope we'll continue to do what we're doing with the good news, spreading the good news that God loves us. Thank you very much for calling.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, the number is 860-321-7405. 860-321-7405. So talking about one of the great services of the Good News Fund is the billboards that we have. And I told you about, I'm just looking at the ones I got today. Another one called me, a father called me, and his son was hooked on drugs. I get a lot of drug calls. And I said, what's the matter? He just stole $1,000 from our house. And we don't know what to do with him. We're trying to get him into a rehab place, but he just keeps on stealing because it started with opiate. He went to the doctor and he gave him some opiate drugs, but they were too expensive. They called it $90 a pill. So he graduated to heroin, which is $5 a bag or something. And now he's just out of it. And he's been on drugs for quite a while. And that's what scared this fellow, the first guy to call me today. He's 66 years old. And I said, it's really a miracle that you're still alive. So I asked him to go to the emergency room in Meriden at Midstate and talk about how they can get into a drug program. Now, will he do it? Chances are not. But the fact that he was so desperate that he called me for help. And the other father who called me and asked me to pray for his son, who's stole last stealing was $1,000 for the. So the guy now is controlled by the drinking, by the drugs. Drugs are a lot like drinking. I have the freedom to take the first drink. If I'm an alcoholic, I still have freedom. But once I take that drink, then the drink in me wants another drink. And once I satisfy that second drink, then I take the third drink, and the first is too much, and the last one is not enough. So that gets me completely out of control. And the drinking controls me. Like we had, over 1,000 overdose deaths. Every 19 seconds, 3 people die from an overdose of drugs. Every 19 seconds. Hundreds and thousands of people, young people and older people too, are dying because of drugs. And now we're saying we're going to legalize marijuana. And there are a lot of arguments for. I was talking to somebody from the Department of Health and Narcotics and said, Father, if we legalize it, then we know how clean the marijuana is. Well, that on the black market, you don't know how that's his main argument. But my point is that if you legalize it, then you have to tax it, and then that marijuana is going to be much more expensive than the black market marijuana. So you'll see, you're not going to stop the black market. I think you may increase it because more and more people would be getting involved with marijuana. And for a lot of people, it's the gateway to others. Like I spoke to you about that fellow who's on crack. But again, if anybody is listening, you can call me at 860-321-7405. 860-321-7405. And if you call me, I'd be very honored to talk to you. Now, so we're talking about the people I see from the billboards. The first two that called me, one was the father whose son just took $1,000, and the other one, the fellow going on to Meriden, who was on crack. Well, the son of this fellow's I know this family. He started with marijuana. Both of them started with marijuana, and we're legalizing it. Well, it's all over the place. You can get it anywhere, except at Nutmeg. You can't get it here. You can't come here. You won't get any marijuana from here. I may give you a glass of water, but I promise I won't give you any marijuana. But seriously, it's everywhere. But for some people, it's a gateway to others. And I just wonder what side effect it has on a person. I'll give you another example that came right now. A fellow called me from West Haven, and he was talking about, he had a question about God. So I said, okay, we talked about God. Now, what about, what's really on your mind? I said, let me ask you, are you on marijuana? And he said, yes. I said, are you drinking? And he said, yes. And I said, are you on pornography now? Yes. Drugs, DDP. Drugs, drinking, and pornography. They go together. And most people, not too many people come to confession anymore. They feel they don't have to. But when I have someone come into confession, it's very, very often that the question of pornography comes up. But there is a connection between marijuana, graduating to drinking and marijuana. They kind of come together, and then pornography. And one of the problems we have in marriage is pornography, not just with kids who start early, but later on in marriage. That's a real problem. So when you look at the example I'm giving you, the first two of marijuana led to crack, and marijuana led to heroin. And marijuana, this fellow who called me from West Haven, he started with marijuana, went to drinking, and went to pornography. So it's a gateway to a lot of things, but we're legalizing it. See, we're talking about, well, we're going to tax people. But look at Colorado. The emergency ward has tripled since marijuana. The number of deaths on the highway has increased because people are high on marijuana, and you can't tell when a policeman stops you. So the negative part, just like alcohol, the overuse of alcohol ends up with an alcoholic. But I'm concerned by that trifecta. Drugs, drinking, and pornography are going together. Those are two examples that I've. Now the third example I have, somebody who's, I'll show which one is very popular. This one, Jesus Forgive Me. That's very, very popular because I get a lot of calls on that. Just 2 days ago, I'll tell you about some calls, and they are back-to-back calls. One guy says, Jesus forgive me. I said, guy calls up and says, will Jesus forgive me? I said, yeah, of course he'll forgive you. So he had no religion. Now, I can't absolve people over the phone as a Catholic priest. It has to be face-to-face. I'd like to do it by television someday, but you can't. It's face-to-face. Now, and I said, will God forgive me? And my first question was, did you commit adultery? And it was a woman. You know, you go to the workout places, the Planets and all the other places to exercise. Well, lots of times you go just to pick up someone. I don't mean pick up a cold, pick up a girl or pick up a guy. And there was one woman who called me from West Hartford. And I said, what's the matter? She said, I committed adultery. And she was very, very, very upset. I said, the guy who committed adultery, was he divorced? Yeah. So he had nothing to lose. Are you married? Yes, I'm married to an Irishman. And he's very, very old school. And I'm afraid if he ever finds out, I'm done. I have children, I have a family, I have a house. And she says, I feel so guilty. I said, okay, where do you live? In West Hartford? I said, well, what church are you close to? And she told me St. Thomas, the Apostle. I said, okay, I'll meet you at the parking lot at such and such a time. So she went over and she went to confession. That was one example. Another guy who saw that Jesus forgive me, he called me, he said, well, God forgive me. And my first question is always, did you commit adultery? And he had, yes, he did. But he had nowhere to go to be absolved from his sin. He said, well, God forgive me. I said, of course he'll forgive you. But I felt so sorry for him because going to confession is like getting a hug from God. How do you know you're forgiven? How's a child know mommy forgave him? When she puts her arms around him and said, honey, I love you, I forgive you, or kisses him. Once he gets that hug or kiss or the word, then he knows he's forgiven. He's got to get an outward sign. Christ was a great psychiatrist. Going to confession is like getting a hug from God. Not judgmental, but forgiveness. So I talked to this guy, and I said, where are you from? He says, I'm from Glastonbury. And he was really guilty. That billboard, Jesus forgive me, really gets a lot of business calls. And I felt so sorry for him because I said, of course God will forgive you. But adultery, I just had another one yesterday. Adultery is like, I got pain here, okay? That pain means I'm having a heart attack. So adultery means that you have pain. You're having a marriage attack. You never commit adultery without having a problem with marriage, whether it's communication, lack of alcohol, drugs, or in-laws that outlaws, or you never grew up, all those different causes. I've had every marriage problem in the world over my 60 years. And every night after a marriage problem, I kneel down and say, God, thank you for keeping me single. So seriously, one of the problems I have, and many it's recurrent, but a real sad one, I can't drink martinis here at Nutmeg, but I can have a glass of water. So here's to you. One day I got a call from an area code that I didn't understand. It wasn't 860 or 203. It was far out. And I picked it up, and it was a young girl I said, how old are you? She said, 14. I said, you're up in Maine, how do you call on me? She says, I saw your billboard, and I put down your name and your telephone number. And again, she said, will God forgive me? And I said, of course God will forgive you. I said, you're 14? Did you give up your virginity? And she said, yes. I said, that fella was your first one, right? But you weren't his first one. So someday when you go to the doctor, you don't know, you never realize how many teenagers pick up sexual diseases. And please, God will forgive you. And this is secondary virginity. I call it second. From now on, act like a virgin, live a virgin's life until you get married. And I felt so sorry for her because she was way out there up in Maine, and she needed forgiveness, and she's scared, and the guys used them. You know, we talk about trafficking. We talk about, that 1 out of 3 girls in family life get abused by someone they know. Just last week, I was talking to someone, and she said, my husband's in jail. I said, why? Because he abused my daughter. Another one called in and said, I was abused by a babysitter when I was a young child. And my mother didn't believe it because the babysitter was her boyfriend. 1 out of 3 girls get abused. 1 out of 6 boys get abused. That doesn't make the headlines. The priests make the headlines. The rabbis don't make the headlines. The imams don't make the headlines. The Protestant minister don't make the headlines. And members of the family don't make the headlines because they want to keep it quiet. Now, 1 out of 6 boys are abused in family life. These are not this isn't my opinion. These are statistics. By the way, if you have a question, call me at 860-321-7405. 860-321-7405. And 1 out of 3 girls, 1 out of 6 boys. When you look at the pedophile priests, it's less than 5%. Out of 1,000 priests since 1952, when the diocese was split to Hartford, Bridgeport, and Norwich, there have been 47 priests. And 9 of those priests abused 84% of the children. And notice many of those priests that became abusers were abused themselves. That's why it's so important for family life, that we really strengthen spiritually family life. And you notice that 60% of children who are abused by someone they know, a male, 60% of the children are abused by male. And this is what blew my mind. 40% of the children abused by someone they know is a woman. So really the plantation, the garden for future abuse is family life where abuse is taking place. If you have a comment on that, call me at 860-321-7405. 860-321-7405. So we're going down the examples of people who call me. Another one called me just today on my way here to Farmington. I stopped off at Dunkin' Donuts and I bought myself a jelly donut with a tea, with green tea. And the lady called in and said, I just want to say thanks for that billboard, Father. I was really, really down. I said, why? She said, I came out of the hospital, St. Francis Hospital, and I had the 4th stage of cancer. And I was so depressed. But I saw your billboard, Jesus, I trust in you. And he brought me a hope. Another story, last Sunday I was up in Waterbury and I was saying Mass at Mount Carmel. And after the Mass, I anointed people with the sacrament of the sick. They call it the last sacrament. It's not because they're dying. It's the last of 7 sacraments. Got baptism, confession, communion, confirmation, marriage, priesthood, and the sacrament of the sick. That's why they call it the last of the 7 sacraments. And I just finished anointing a lot of people. I looked at the congregation, and I said, most of you are closer to the tomb than you are to the womb, so you're qualified. So they all came up to get anointed. But a young man came up to me, and I was surprised. Young people don't go to church today. You got to be over 65 and show your social security to be able to get into church. They're all over 65, unfortunately. But this guy was probably in his late 20s or 30s. And he came up, he says, I'm not ill, Father. I just want to thank you. I said, why? He said, a couple of days ago, I ran out of gas and my cell phone was dead. And I'm standing in the highway, worried, what am I going to do? And I looked up at the billboard and I saw, I love you, Mary. And he said, that gave me so much hope. And eventually I got the help I needed. So he went out of his way to say thank you. And that's one of the things that I get a lot of thank you for having those billboards up there. But I get a lot of people called to pray. I have, just today, I got a call, pray for my cousins. They're having marriage problems. And they weren't talking about infidelity, but they're having marriage problems. You know, once you stop communicating and you get hooked on texting, you forget how to talk to each other. If you text, you don't have to worry about a rebuttal. But if you talk to each other, you get a conversation. Texting, you don't have any conversation. You just have words. So they asked me to please pray for this couple. And I get a lot of that, where people ask me to pray for them. And I pray that you call 860-321-7405. 860-321-7405. I'm just going down the list of some of the different types of calls I get from the billboards. This one I told you about. Your cousin who called and said, my cousins are having marriage problems, Father, would you pray for them? And Lent is coming up, and this is a good time to take care of your marriage problems. A couple of days ago, we had a group of pre-Cana conference couples who were getting married, so they come for instructions to get them to communicate more with each other, to get rid of their cell phone and just talk to each other on different topics. And I asked all the couples there, what's the purpose of marriage? And I was amazed at the different answers. None of them had a common answer why they're getting married. I just wonder, why are you getting married when you don't even know what you're getting married for? A lot of people just get married for the wedding. They don't get married for marriage. They want that 5 hours. I remember one couple came to me and said, Father, I got a problem. My future wife wants to come in with a Rolls Royce to church. And I looked at her and I said, well, I'll give her a different name. I said, Mary, your wedding is going to be 5 hours. And your marriage, I hope, is 50 years. So what's the emphasis? And she said, I want Rolls Royce. They're renting it. So 11 years later, I'm over the house. Now they have two kids. What are their names? Elle and Nora. And I said to her, Tal, I'll call her Mary. Mary, do you still want that Rolls Royce on your wedding? Of course I do. After 11 years, after 2 kids, and a husband, and a wife, a husband, and a house, and a job, you still want a Rolls Royce? Of course I want it. So what did I do? Don't tell anyone. I went out, I bought a Rolls Royce about this big. And I'm celebrating my birthday with the family. So I says, I got a gift for you that you always wanted. And she became so inquisitive. What do you mean, a gift that something you always wanted? But it cost me about $30. So I should have brought it and showed it. Next time I'll show it to you if I still have it. So she's going to get her Rolls Royce finally. But most people, they are more concerned about the wedding reception than the marriage itself. Why is it that some people are living together for a long time, and they have a wedding, then 6 months later they divorce? I had a couple living together for 7 years, and they get married, and I felt uncomfortable. 3 months later, I see this woman at another wedding, and I said, didn't we perform the marriage ceremony? Yeah. I said, you still married? Oh, no. My husband is a workaholic. I said, for 6 years, he was a workaholic. And now 3 months after, you're divorcing him because he's a workaholic. Now, this is an example of a woman just wanted the wedding and be a prima donna for five hours. But she had no intention of remaining married. She just cared about the reception and the wedding and that nice dress. I'll tell you a funny one. One lady saw my billboard, and she called me up. She says, we'd like to get married. Would you marry me? I said, you're not my type. So we talked, and eventually we got them together. But I had a hard time. They want to get married in a church. That doesn't happen too often anymore. So they want to get married on New Year's Eve, because they wanted to bring the new year in. Now, they've been living together for 6 years, and now they want to bring the new year in? What about those old years that just passed by? But anyways, my problem was I don't have a parish anymore. I live at the seminary or the pastoral center in Bloomfield, so I had to find a parish. I asked the bishop for permission to have this wedding on a Sunday, because priests have so many masses, they don't have weddings on Sunday usually. So I said, what would you rather have, 300 people down at the beach or have 300 people in church? So I got permission. But remember, I didn't have my own church. So I went to one church and I said, Father, could I use your church on New Year's Eve to have a wedding? He says, what are you, crazy? Does everybody want to get married on a Sunday? I said, Father, how many weddings did you have last year? One. I went to another parish. What are you, crazy? We have weddings on. How many weddings did you have? 2. I went to the third person. It was a big church. They had about 35 weddings for the year. But he wasn't too happy. So I didn't go. Finally, the fourth church, I said, I'll pray for you for life if you let me use your church. So I witnessed the marriage. But then they have the reception. The statistics show the more expensive the wedding, the quicker the divorce. And the hors d'oeuvres, I thought the hors d'oeuvres were the main meal. But I went over to the bar, and I said, it was an open bar, and I said to them, how much will they spend? She says, well, there's close to 300 people here, so they'll spend between $5,000 and $10,000. So with everything, it had to be between $35,000 and $40,000. Now, how much did they give to me, to the priest, for officiating? Just guess how much they gave. 860-321-7405. And if you guess the right number, I'll send you a nice Easter card. 860-321-7405. What would you say was the donation? They spend between $35,000 and $40,000 on the reception and the dresses and the honeymoon and all that stuff. How much did they give to the church? I give to me personally, because although I wanted to give something to the church, they gave me absolutely nothing. Why? Because the emphasis was not on the religious ceremony. The emphasis was on the reception, of having food and drink at the reception, and a band and all the other stuff. So when you look at marriage today, it's in tough shape. It's in real tough shape. I have another little drink. 860-321-7405. And if you look at marriage, 1 out of 2 marriages end in divorce. Those who are married. 51% of people now are not even married. They don't even bother getting married. And what happens when you're living together and get married? One of the big problems of living together is infidelity. And you bring that attitude into your marriage. That when you're living together, there's no ring, there's no bond, there's no commitment. There's living together for money's sake or whatever. And then you end up getting married and you bring in that mentality of I can walk out on her or him anytime. And then you get married for the ceremony, and you have this mentality of temporary commitment of living. And many people who live together and get married have an 80% higher chance of getting a divorce. And that's sad. The couple at the pre-Cana, I was having lunch with him, and I said, well, what'd you get out of this weekend? And he was interested. He said, I found the tremendous importance of the sacrament of marriage and all the graces that come through the sacrament of marriage. And people just don't believe that way anymore. People do not live until death are not married until death do us part. People are married until love departs. People get married and they stay married until love departs. There's not a commitment, unconditional commitment. In order for marriage to be valid, it has to have 4 things. 1, the person on your elbow has to be the person on your mind. I got an annulment for John. John married Elizabeth. Elizabeth had John on her elbow, but she had Bruce on her mind, and she ran off with Bruce 3 months after they were married. So in order to be valid, the person on your elbow has to be the person on your mind. The second is that you have to, your commitment, your vow is unconditional. Not, well, like when, oh, if it doesn't work out in 7 years, Father, we'll call it quits. And I told him to go bye-bye. I wouldn't celebrate the marriage with him. It's got to be unconditional, for better, for worse, for richer, for poor. And not until love departs and until death do us part. So it has to be one person, unconditional, until death. And then you have to have the intention of having children. What do we see people walking around the streets with now? With carriages or dogs? I was coming up here, I went through West Hartford. I must have seen 4 people walking their dogs. The Muslims are having 7 children, and we're having dogs. And we're getting married much later in life, so we're not going to have that many children. I was in a doctor's office, and there was a nurse there, and I noticed that she was Muslim. And I said, how old are you? She says, 20. Married? Yes. How many children do you have? 2. So the Muslims average, in some cases, 6, 7, or 8 children. Well, I'll give you a good example. And a friend of mine has 4 children. I married 3 of them. Just married one. He just got married. I married another one, and now she's divorced. She's got 2 dogs. The other one never got married, but they're living together, and they have 2 dogs. And the other one, who married a Muslim, has 5 kids, and she's only she's 35. Most of us are getting married 34, 35, so we may have 1 child. But the attitude today of getting married much later and having less kids, I'll tell you, I had a funeral a couple of days ago, and I was at the reception, and there's 4 couples around the table, and I was sitting there. And I said, they're all showing pictures. So I presumed these were children. So I said, can I see the pictures? All of them were dogs. None of them were children. And they're showing off their dogs. Then what got me, the funeral director came up, and I said, are you married? She said, oh yeah, but I'm not having children. I said, how many dogs do you have? 3 dogs. Look at the future of the United States. Like in Europe right now. Germany, France, Italy, and Spain are averaging 1.4, 1.5 children, while the Muslims have a wife and 3 cousins, and they're averaging 6 or 7 children. So within 50 years, even less, Europe is it's not Christian now, it's going to be Muslim. So people don't get married to have children. You have to have the intention of having children. So the person on your elbow, unconditional until death do us life, and the intention of having children. And if you don't intend to have children, a lot of people can't. I mean, I had a couple on drugs, they'll never have children. Some people getting older, they're not going to have children. But your intention has to be able to want children if you could have children. And a lot of people, even before marriage, I got an annulment on a case. The girl said right before, they lie when we have the PMI, the pre-marriage investigation. They lie, yes, I intend to be married until death. Yes, I intend to have children. But this girl told her girlfriend, the maid of honor, I'm never going to have any children. So she told that before the marriage, at the wedding vows. Once she said that, the marriage vows were invalid, and so an annulment could be happen. Yeah, marriage is really a messed up place. Now, let me ask you a question. If you could answer this, I'll take you out to the best restaurant in the world, wherever you live. 860-321-7405. 860-321-7405. How do you spell busy? How do you spell busy? B-U-S-Y. And what does busy mean? Be under Satan's yoke. Be under Satan's yoke. I'm too busy to go to church. The devil loves it. I'm too busy to pray. I'm watching football. I'm too busy to go to convalescent home to see my mother-in-law. I'm too busy to help my neighbor. Yes, whenever I don't want to do something, I'm too busy. But when I do want something, I make that person a priority. And somebody said, Father, you're very busy. You're very busy. One person after Mass said, Father, you're also busy. I am busy, but right now you're my priority. It's not a matter of being busy. It's a matter of your priority. And let's see now. Let's see. We'll go to one. You're on the air, Father Ed.
Hi, Father Ed. It's Christy Miller.
Hi, Christy. Tell me.
How are you?
Good. I'm glad you called me because I'd like to do some radio spots on WTIC for Ash Wednesday.
That's fantastic.
Is that too early, too late now? Can I get in there?
You can absolutely get in there.
Okay, but I want it, what is it, 30 seconds on TIC and on, WRCH, right?
You want WRCH or WTIC?
Yeah. Well, can we split them? Because I don't want it on the internet. I wanted the people to hear it. So,
Okay.
so if we could start on Wednesday, and how many spots are we talking about?
Probably 20 on each. Well, I can do definitely 20 on WTIC AM.
Yeah.
15 on WRCH if you would like.
Okay. Well, since I'm a senior citizen, and do I get a senior discount? And since I'm a priest, do I get a clerical discount?
How about I do 22 on WTIC AM and 17 on WRCH?
Okay.
How's that sound?
I will pray for you. Tell me the spots that we did, the prayer spots of Mary. Would you still have a copy of that?
We do. We still have those.
How do you feel those were?
I thought they worked well. I thought it was very powerful.
Yeah, I'll tell you one quick story. One lady heard it on WTIC, and she heard me praying the Hail Mary, and she turned around and went back to church because of the prayer to Mary.
Oh, that's excellent.
So where will you put it? I hope you put it on the 3 to 6 show.
We will put it all day long because we don't want anybody to miss it.
Okay, so if you could, Ash Wednesday is a beautiful time to get people thinking about Lent. So if you could put it, now, when did I say my contract and sign my life away?
We can try connecting tomorrow if you would like.
Yeah, tomorrow morning I've got an interview with the people at Lamar. They want me to talk about their billboards. And then I have from 11 to 1, but after the afternoon, I could come see you or whatever.
Okay, that sounds perfect.
Okay, I'll call you. Why don't you call me about 1 o'clock and tell me where you want me to go.
Sounds perfect.
Here's your chance to tell a priest where to go. Okay. Okay, thanks, Christy.
Thank you, Father Nadolny. I appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. That's Christy Miller from the 2 radio stations. And I've done real spots, Hail Mary. I try to get people, the whole purpose of the Good News Fund is to get people to pray. I pray while on the air, and also pray when you're on radio, and I'd like to do some on TV too. I'd have to Nutmeg has got 8 stations or so I'd love to be able to do these short spots on the area of these 8 stations. I don't know if I could do it through Nutmeg or if I have to do it in some other way, but that's my next little project. So I only touched about 4 so far of the 20 different stories I have of people. I got a call one day. It was 9:30 at night. It was raining, and I just want to go to sleep. And by the way, if anybody wants to call me, 860-321-7405. We have 3 minutes and 42 seconds left to the program. So 860-321-7405. It was raining. It was really raining one night, and I was just about ready to go to bed. I'm closer to the tomb than I am to the womb. I'm 86 years old. So and the telephone rings, and there's a name. Somebody's very upset. I said, "What's the matter?" it's raining and we have no place to go. I said, where are you? She says, I'm on Jennings Road. And the billboard says, Jesus, I trust in you. That's in north end of Hartford. So I said, okay. So I went out there, and there was a man and a woman, a young man and a young woman with a young child. And they had no place to go. So I put them into the a motel right next door and tried to get them in touch with South Park, where they have some shutting for shut-ins. Or rather for those who need shelter, not shut-ins, but shelter, so that they would be a shut-in. And those are just some examples of what happens. We have no idea how many people are out there who are hungry, who are starving, who are homeless. So many people have lost their jobs. And now we have taxes going up. We're going to have toll booths all over the place. I hope they don't put it over Nutmeg. So we'll have to pay to get into Nutmeg, pay taxes to get in here. But instead of cutting back on our expenses, we're going to make more money so we can spend more money. And you know, when you have a credit card, you don't take a credit card to pick a credit card, and that's what we're doing. We have such a big budget of money needed, over $50 billion, and we're using a credit card to pay this credit card. Well, when do we start paying off that first credit card? So our state, our country, and our state here is really in trouble. So, but unless we everybody's moving out of town. One priest told me 8 families have moved out to Florida or Tennessee. And that means they're not buying clothes, they're not going to gas stations, they're not going to restaurants, they're not paying taxes, and all our money it's all going down south with all these people with the retirement. Well, with our last minute, what I like to do is just close the program in a very simple way. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen. Glory be to the Father, and to the Son, and to the Holy Spirit, as it was beginning, now, and ever was, forever. Amen. God bless you.